Talk about keeping it in the family.
When you think of family business dynasties who've made money in the Pilbara, you think of Reinhardt, Wright, Hancock and maybe Forrest. Little did we know that a father-son duo was also staking a claim. Instead of iron ore, the Bazzies were trading cocaine, heroin and methamphetamine. Nabil Bazzi has just started a 19-year stretch in prison for drug dealing, just a couple of years after completing an 11-year sentence.
Welcome back.
He first went inside in 2006 when the cops realised the then pizza shop owner
Fat pizza pieces
was delivering more than meat lovers' thin crusts.
What seems to be the problem, officer?
Nabil was selling pizzas, amongst other things, in Port Hedland, a town his father Mohammed chose to live in when he emigrated to Australia. Nabil had a $300,000 drug debt and, like so many people in that position, thought of the genius idea of paying off the IOU by selling drugs. He went to Sydney where he bought 5.6 kilos of speed and 290 ecstasy tablets and hid them inside 2 giant speakers.
Very special because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11.
Police intercepted the drugs en route to Perth and replaced them with a harmless white powder. They then watched the unit in Bassendean that the speakers were delivered to and swooped when they saw Nabil pull up. The cops were probably not aware that he had brought his hapless old man with him.
That's my boy.
Clearly didn't learn his lesson.
Soon after getting out of jail, he was back in the habit, this time using a different business as a front for his drug distribution operation.
It just ain't gardening if it ain't soils, ain't soils.
The now 44-year-old Nabil was back on the police radar when they pulled him over on Mounts Bay Road in 2019. They found $114,950 in cash in a Coles shopping bag and 2 cipher encrypted phones, which criminals have convinced themselves the cops find hard to hack.
We just heard everything you said.
No, you didn't.
When the officers asked Bazzi where the cash came from, he said his garden supplies business.
Now that's what I call good tasting soil, son.
And when they asked why a convicted drug dealer might need an encrypted phone, Bazzi came up with an excuse that even primary school kids know rarely works.
It's not mine.
A few months later, a 7-kilo meth bust in Cannington led detectives back to Bazzi's home, where they found a vehicle you'd expect would be owned by one-time pizza bar owners turned Soils Ain't Soils franchisees, an AMG Mercedes.
Is a real handful.
By now, even Chief Wiggum could have worked out that Bazzi was back on the tools.
Bake 'em away, Ties.
What'd you say, Chief?
And the cops put the squeeze on the 2 men who found the 7 kilos of meth in Cannington. One of them sang like a canary and explained how he was delivering drugs for Bazzi, who used the code name Straight Bourbon.
Well, that'd be a pretty crooked line.
Which is so naff it may as well have been Straight Bogan.
Yes, sir.
The other guy was recruited by Bazzi at a Northbridge karaoke bar. He got paid just $50 or $100 to deliver drugs around Perth and is now doing 11 years for this trouble, which shows it pays to squeal if the cops have got you red-handed.
Well, $100 won't get you far.
No, not now, thanks to the RBA. We're freaking out over interest rates of 2.35%. The past 3 generations of homeowners would kill for rates that low.
True. But their home loans were smaller because their houses were cheaper.
Because they didn't insist on having butlers' pantries and heated flooring. You know what an outdoor kitchen looked like when I grew up? This.
Sure.
Anyway, the 0.5 percentage point increase was the 5th in a row. The last time we raised rates this fast, we were listening to this.
Shadow that's by your side.
Watching this.
Yeah, we happy.
And wearing this. In 1994, the economy was coming out of the recession. We had to have a lot faster than we realised, and they needed to hit the brakes. Westpac reckons the current pain isn't over and that we will go up a full 1 percentage point by February. The bank reckons it's only when official rates are above 3, which means the rate you and I pay will have a 6 in front of it, that inflation will drop from an expected 8% later this year to the target band of 2 to 3.
The RBA is copping some heat.
It calls for Reserve Bank Governor Philip Lowe to resign, people saying he failed to anticipate rising inflation. But if we sacked every central banker who didn't predict the global supply disruption caused by someone eating a dodgy bat in Wuhan, or didn't predict that someone making a dodgy foreign policy decision in Ukraine would see 10% of world energy supply cut, we'd have nobody left to set official interest rates. Where Lowe is exposed is on the pace of his interest rate rises. Some economists are saying he isn't paying enough attention to the lag effect. This refers to the period of weeks and sometimes months between official rates rising and you and I reacting.
Hey, something's wrong with this guy.
First, because it takes a little while for our banks to pass on the rate rise.
It never takes that long.
True. And second, because it takes a while for us to adjust our spending patterns. Mortgage payments come out monthly, so if a rate rise happens on the first day of the month but your mortgage isn't due until the last, then for more than 4 weeks you are probably spending as usual.
Put $5,000 on the Lakers. Hire Kenny G to play for me in the elevator. My house is dirty. Buy me a clean one.
It actually takes a good couple of mortgage payments for reality to hit for someone with, say, a $600,000 loan to fully comprehend the impact of having $700 a month less to play with. By the time you realise the first couple of rate rises means you really do need to spend less, the RBA has already jacked up rates another 3 times. And when the reality of those increases hits you, they hit hard.
Okay, Homer, nothing to be worried about. Just...
In the case of Australia, that reality check will likely coincide with Christmas. So any retailer relying on a bumper December trade to meet their own higher mortgage payments could be in for a shock.
The Treasurer says it's a tough time for families.
Well, the whole point of raising interest rates is families do it tough.
Please, sir. I want some more.
We need them to stop spending as much on goods and services so that supply outstrips demand, and the basic law of economics forces the consumer price index, which is the inflation rate, to fall. The problem is the basic law of economics is coming up against the basic law of politics. People don't like feeling poor and will blame the government when they do.
It's your fault.
And governments, particularly those ones that rely on crossbench support because they don't have a clear majority, are very susceptible to the mood of the electorate.
Because I've met some people, okay, real people, and I got to tell you, a lot of them are idiots.
Jim Chalmers says he's committed to getting inflation down, but the Greenhorn Treasurer is one of the biggest roadblocks to that happening. He's about to deliver tax cuts worth $243 billion over the next decade. In less than 2 years, there will be a flat rate of 30 cents on the dollar for anyone earning 40k to 200k. At the upper end, you currently lose half your wage to the taxman.
That's a lot of money coming back into the economy.
Huge amount of money. And there's more. He's making it cheaper to be sick. In January, the cost of pharmaceutical benefit scheme medicines will drop to $30 a script from $42. And he wants to reform the childcare system, which is clearly a basket case. He wants to pay carers more so they are less inclined to strike, while at the same time making childcare more affordable. In July 2023, people earning up to $500,000 a year will pay less at a cost to government, by which I mean taxpayers like you and I, of $5 billion. More money in more pockets means more demand for stuff and inflation will go up.
That seems like a fundamentally bad idea.
The government's dressing up the childcare changes as a workforce participation measure. They'll argue that more people in work will drive down the price of labour, and that's a driver of inflation.
Which it is.
But nothing compared with the price of, say, fuel, and that's why the inflation genie got out of the bottle in the first place. The war in Ukraine meant the price of oil doubled in a few months. Oil is a fundamental determinant of the consumer price index because everything we consume was produced using it. Chalmers is now under enormous pressure to extend the fuel excise holiday because at 12:01am on September 22, the price of filling up will jump 22 cents a litre.
Everything's getting more expensive.
Not everything.
Good bounce too.
Footy's still free. The AFL has just renewed its broadcast deal with the Seven Network and Foxtel, $4.5 billion over 9 years. That's a lot of dough even for this guy. But the good news for Kerry Stokes' Seven Network, which is owned by the same company that produces this show, is the commentary team is now cheaper to run.
Kerry's done it again!
WA Police are coming late to the party on this one. They're going to ask to interview Wayne Carey about that bag of white powder that fell out of his pocket at Crown Perth.
It's a great feeling here tonight.
Powder wasn't tested, so we have no way of disputing Wayne's story that it was crushed up anti-inflammatory tablets, which can be used for back pain and police stings. I'm Ben Harvey. For more Up Late, click the subscribe button below.